Andrew, I can't hear you. Hey.
Hey, Stephanie, that was a rookie mistake on my part, not unmuting myself. But I was trying to say it's an absolute pleasure having you here today because you're such a positive voice in craft beer, and you've made it your mission to celebrate Black women in craft beer. And you've received a lot of recognition for it as well over the past couple of years. In 2020, you were a recipient of the Diversity in Beer Writing grant from the North American Guild of Beer Writers, which is an amazing organization, and you were recognized in arguably just as big, if not bigger, honor for being one of Imbibe's 75 people to watch. And you also find time to be the social media coordinator at Monday Night Brewing. So you're very, very busy. How do you find time to wear so many different hats?
I get up very early in the morning.
How early?
5 o'clock. I used to get up at 4:30, which I find 5 o'clock to be an improvement. But it is still difficult to get up at
Do you
that early.
wake up at 5 o'clock and get your day going for work, or do you have to wake up, or is it a choice because you can get to do other things that early?
That is the way I do everything outside of my 9 to 5, which is my job at Monday night. I get up early, and that's when I work on the share. That's when I work on Instagram and brainstorm what I'm going to do next, write articles, record intros for podcasts, like all the little things that go into everything else I do outside of my regular job.
How does your husband feel when the alarm goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning?
I don't think he likes it very much, but
I
he's
can
good for it.
I can only imagine. My wife and I, we have a 2-year-old, and there's some days I'll be like, you know what, Stacy, I want to wake up early tomorrow before you and Max get up and get a lot of work done. So I'll set my alarm for like 6:15 in the morning,
Yeah.
and when it hits at 6:15 in the morning, I just hit it, and she yells at me, and I'm like, I wish I could have done it. So I truly commend you for having that discipline because I'm quite jealous of that. I wish I could make myself wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be productive.
I will make you feel a little bit better. Some days it does not happen. So, like this morning, I decided I was going to sleep in, and I did.
You deserve it sometimes. I
Yeah.
think a great thing about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I can only imagine because I never really get to experience it, is that when you're responding to comments on Instagram or Facebook, no one's responding back right then and there. So you're not going to get in that little war, conversation that doesn't want to end. You just say what you got to say, step
Yes.
away.
Yes. Though I will say, the people who follow me on Instagram, like my corner of the internet is full of great people. Like I don't get a lot of hate. Everyone's so supportive, so it's very much appreciative. And I also send my emails that early in the morning, so I usually schedule them to go out at 8, which is like my secret weapon. People think I might be emailing at a reasonable time, but I'm not.
Scheduling emails is one of the best secrets anyone can do. It makes people you think you're working extra early. I think I'm going to schedule you an email, like a thank you, tomorrow morning at 5:30 in the morning, and be like, Stephanie, I told you I could do it.
I love it.
But let's talk about time for a minute, because I remember the first time you and I just hopped on a call when we were just getting to know each other. That morning, my son went in my closet. He picked out a bright green shirt for me, and I was looking at this shirt, and it was a shirt I wore in college like 17 years ago. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was 17 years ago since I first got this shirt. And so often we think in days, and days add up so quickly, and we pass the years. And looking at the past year that we've gone through, I mean, a little over a year now since we've been in the pandemic. What a weird year. And how has time felt for you?
Oh, it's been hard to keep up with time. I think I'm not alone in saying that. Like I can't believe we're at the end of May. Like it's still hard to keep up with time, and sometimes it goes by quickly, and then some months that feel like extraordinarily hard, the time goes by slower. So it just depends on the day, the month. At my current job, time goes by really quickly within the day. Like I think I have a lot more time to get everything on my to-do list done, and then I look up and it's like 3 o'clock, and I'm like, oh no. So time has been very weird for me. It's either going at the speed of light are just like a slow tick of seconds that seem like they last forever.
And I think so often during the pandemic, the days literally blur together. The only difference is maybe on a weekend you try to disconnect a little bit more. How have you
Absolutely.
found time to kind of separate yourself from all your projects and actually take time for you outside of all the
Mm.
hats you wear?
I try to keep my weekends very work free. So that's my way of kind of providing a separation. As I mentioned, like I don't always get up at 5. So if I feel like, I mean, this last year has been I'm stressful for everyone. So if I'm feeling like, I need a little, my self-care is letting me sleep in, basically. Um, let's see, what else do I do to provide separation? I mean, I would say having an office to do my work and then leaving my laptop in the office is probably one of the best things that anyone can do, because it provides, like, the rest of the house is not my office. I will occasionally work on the couch, but for the most part, I this room that I'm in now is that space for work. Everything else is my home, my free time.
Has it always been that way? Have you always been so good about keeping those boundaries?
No. No. I still think that sometimes, I would say, when I started my job, I was extremely excited to be working there. Still excited, but um it was really hard for me to turn off work when I started there, because I had so many ideas. I was finally working full time in the craft beer industry, and it was just like a flood of things. And I would come home, and I remember coming home one day from the brewery and just not being able to turn it off. I was trying to like relax with my husband, and I was like, I got an idea, and I like started writing it down. And I was like, oh gosh, like I said, he is a saint, he is an angel. He puts up a lot of my stuff. But I that has kind of slowed down a bit, and I'm able to better turn it off. But one thing I do is I have notes in my phone where if I do get an idea and I'm not on working, I will just put it in there, or I put it on my calendar and try to quickly switch to work and then switch back. That's been like my method, but not have not always been good at
I
that.
like how you just said when I'm not working, but then I open up notes and I work for a second and I put it away.
Yes.
I know exactly that struggle because I'll be watching a TV show or Netflix late at night with my wife. We're just trying to unwind, trying to clear our brains, watching mindless TV. Then you get triggered. You have this idea. You're like, I need to write it down right now. Otherwise, you might forget.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. You have to write it down because it will not return to you. That's at least my experience. Like if I don't write it down, then it's bye bye forever. It could have been the best
When
idea I've ever had.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I was growing up, specifically in high school, don't think I'm too weird for saying this. I used to carry an index card in my pocket. And the
Hmm.
reason I had an index card, it was before we had cell phones to do
Yeah.
to-do lists and things like that. I would keep a running list of everything that I wanted to do. Some of it was ideas, some of it was cut the grass, some of it was read this, read that. It was just an ongoing to-do list in my pocket, and I would scribble things off once I accomplished them. But I just remember I would try to put it on the chair across from my bed when I would go to sleep at night. And I would wake
Mhm.
up in the middle of the night and have that idea I had to write down. And so I would get up, write it down, and go back to sleep. So I think I've always had that same problem as you. But you're a storyteller. You're always going to have some sort of idea. Did you have that problem when you were growing up? And like when you were just a kid, if we were to meet on the playground a billion years ago, what did you want to be when you were older?
I wanted to do whatever job got me the most money, which is funny that now I'm working in craft beer industry. Um, so I wanted to be a doctor, and then I eventually settled on being a forensic pathologist because they made like the big bucks, and I was like, yes, I want that. And then I went to college, and my dreams were shattered when I took like psych. Oh no, not psych. Physics. And I was like, oh, this is not coming naturally to me. I don't get this. But one thing that has always been easy for me, well, I won't say easy, but it's kind of come naturally with the right circumstances, is writing and telling stories. And I have bits of stories all over the place. Thank God for Google Docs because that's where I've started to collect those stories. But I mean, I've been journaling since I was a kid, and like similar to your index card, like I have my journal where I would write all my stuff down. I've always had like some type of planner where I would write everything down. Um, and I'm sure if I dig up an old planner, I probably have like a piece of a story somewhere. It's like very happy for technology because now it's able to corral all of those ideas. Because if not, then I don't know if I could be a successful writer. Um, yeah, I that note card that you mentioned was I relate to that. Like I've always had something around where I can write down an idea, a task that I need to do, or the beginnings of a story.
And I think it kind of serves almost as a checklist and motivates you to get
Mhm.
something done by having those words down. You want to finish it. And sometimes my email inbox now looks like a checklist as well. I'll send myself emails, do this, do that. But
Yes.
that's another battle in itself.
Yes.
So when you were growing up and you liked telling these stories, is there a story you remember writing early in childhood that was one of your first examples of, oh, this is really fun? Is like a topic you like to dive into, or
I feel like I've always written stories about things that were relevant to me. So I remember being a little girl and I put together this book. I remember stapling it and I was talking to my uncle about it, about like how I'm like was telling him about the story. I can't remember the details. I do remember it was about a young black woman, probably in her 20s, and her friendships and um, just her living her life. I can't remember what problem I had in there because I feel like every story has like some type of thing that you're trying to figure out. But I do remember putting that book together, and I really wish I had it. Which actually, my dad might have it because he keeps all of our stuff, our little arts and crafts things.
you
Um,
have to find it?
yes, I really do because I think about it often when I think about how I started out, and I would love to see what it looked like and what I was talking about at that age. I mean, I probably was like 10 years old putting together this storybook, and I like colored the pictures in and all of that.
But then apparently you sound like you got sidetracked and just started to get a little money motivated, wanted to be a doctor, forensic scientist, whatever it may be. It's like, how did that
Yes.
pivot come in your life?
I don't think I thought about writing as a job really, even though I read books. I'm a huge reader. I'm an avid reader, and I've
What are you
always
reading
been
right
that.
now? Anything?
Oh, I'm reading two different books right now. Let's see. One is what is I'm trying to remember. I have to look them up. One is Sometimes I Lie, which is about a woman in a coma. Don't know what's happening there because just started that one. And one that I'm going to start soon is This Will Be My Undoing. I actually just found about this book today, and it looks really good. It's about living at the intersection of black, female, and feminists in white America. So I'm really excited to read that.
Oh, sounds
Um,
great.
yeah.
Are
So I'm
you one of
using
those people, someone mentions a book to you and you go on Amazon and buy it right then and there?
or I use my library card. So I won't go to Amazon because there's no way. I try to read at least 50 books a year. That is an expensive habit, and I already have one, and that's buying beer. And so I use my library card. I also have a
Love it.
subscription to Scribed, which has audio and um, um, digital books, and so I use those two. And I also use Goodreads. That is where I usually go. Someone recommends a book, I go to Goodreads, one to check if I've read it because sometimes I forget, and then two to log it as a book that I want to read later. But
I
yeah.
wish I had more time to read. I'm trying to dedicate 30 minutes a morning to at least read a
Mhm.
few pages and tell myself I have to do it. It's on my schedule now, so I'm trying to get better at it.
Yeah. I think audiobooks, if you, I mean, you podcast, so you listen, I'm assuming you listen to them.
Oh, I love
Audiobooks
them.
are the best way to knock out your reading list. Like I highly recommend it. I was very much against it. I loved having physical books and reading physical books because that's what I grew up on. But now I can't even get through a physical book because it doesn't fit into my routine.
Are you able to listen to podcasts and listen to audiobooks while you're doing something that involves words?
No, no.
See, that's
Only
my
makes me
problem right there.
sad.
I'm crafting emails, I'm writing articles, I'm getting posts out on social media. I can't give proper focus to those topics when I'm doing things like that.
Yes, it's very it I learn I tried to do them at the same time and I realized every time I would pause the podcast or whatever I was listening to and then write and then unpause it and I was like, what am I doing? Just listen to like I listen to lo-fi beats. Um and I usually listen to podcasts either in the or podcast audiobooks in the car or when I'm making like my breakfast in the morning, my coffee. I listen to the daily every day. That's like part of my routine. And then if you're just like around the house, not doing anything, folding laundry, I try to find there are always those little moments throughout your day where you can start to add in reading. That's why I love the audiobooks because you can do that with just about anything except for writing.
No, I love it. So I want to backtrack for just a minute,
Mhm.
kind of talking about where your career took you, because you had this passion for writing at a young age. You went to school for, did you say forensic
I
something
went
or
to
other?
yeah, I went to school with like I guess I don't know. Well, major in chemistry.
There we
Like this
go.
yeah, majored in chemistry. That also was a class. I remember taking that chemistry class and I was like, I'm gonna make this happen. I'm a very determined person. And I couldn't make it happen.
So did you end up switching your major to something
Mhm.
more in the arts field? What did you
I
switch it to?
did. I switched to technical writing probably um I probably didn't even make it out of my freshman year before I switched my major over. Yeah, I switched to technical writing. There was another path you could take, which was like writing fiction, and I didn't really want to do that. Um, and I still really I like writing fiction, like poetry and stuff, but I don't want to get paid for it because it's a difference between writing for yourself and creating for yourself and then getting paid to do something and poetry and things like that. Those are the things I keep close to my heart and I don't think I ever want to get paid for those things.
I absolutely respect that. So when you were going for technical writing,
Mhm.
what were you thinking you were going to do with that degree?
Oh, you're taking me back. Let me see. What was my plan? I thought that I was going to end up writing manuals or something like technical manuals. Maybe be an editor. I think at one point. But so right out of college, I got a job at Lockheed Martin where if you're going to write technical manuals, that's like the best place to be. And that wasn't exactly what I was doing, but I could have like moved up, but I just didn't like the environment there. It was very close to the military without being in the military. Um, and it was also a very male heavy field, which I think is funny saying that now that I'm in craft beer. But it was just a bunch of old retired military guys writing manuals. And not the environment I really wanted to be in. And the building had no windows where I sat. So
Oh my gosh.
I am very much like if I can eat outside, I will eat outside. I love being outside. And it was just like not it was not a very motivating atmosphere because I need to see the sun.
Yeah, nothing against technical writing because it's very, very necessary. And craft
Yes.
beer, I think, could take note from a lot of technical writing
Oh,
and apply those
absolutely.
practices to our industry. But technical writing doesn't sound quite as romantic as the craft beer industry.
Sure. But I don't know. I love the simplicity of technical writing, like getting down into the gritty parts of it where you have to make sure that this information is usable for your audience. And so I got into a bit of usability in my career where it was funny, my husband was asking me which side does the okay or the cancel button go on. And I was like, the okay button goes on the left versus the right. And those are things that like I learned. I eventually decided I wanted to go into UX in my career path, but here I am back writing again.
Well, it's fascinating because I'm sure everything you learned with technical writing really applies in a lot of angles to what you still do now.
Yes, it does. The program that I was in, they were very focused on the end user and how they would approach the content, and that is information that any writer could use. So a lot of the things that I learned in that course in undergrad and grad school has helped prepare me for where I am now, and it's amazing that it would have, like, if my end goal was to be where I am now, I don't know if I would have taken that path, but it was the right path for me to be on in order for me to do the job I have now.
Interesting. So you got out of the technical writing field and you went into social media. Is that correct?
Um, I had a few stops along the way, but yes.
Yeah. And
And,
anything you'd like to mention?
um, nothing exciting. I so the social media thing, actually, funny enough, in grad school, I did the program I did was information design and communication, and they talked about social media then. And not to like tell my age, but that was back in the day when I don't even think there were Facebook pages, but they had already started seeing the capabilities of social media use for businesses. And I was like, how cool is this? Where you can have your business can talk to your fans, your whatever, your clients directly. That was just like something that really wasn't available before social media. So I was super fascinated by it. But after grad school, I didn't go directly into that. I went into a writing job, and I did social media there for a bit. Um, and then I had a few other copywriting writing jobs, and then I ended up in the beer industry.
Before you jumped into the beer industry, what didn't you like about your past positions? Is there anything that just frustrated you
Mm.
and got you to your breaking point where you were ready to do something, let's just say more fun or more beer
Um,
based?
I've been lucky. I've had some pretty good jobs. I mean, I crap on my first job, but there were some great people within my team. It I would say, like, working at Lockheed and the last job I had before it, I just don't really like large organizations. Um, I For whatever reason, I've just attracted to smaller organizations. I kind of blame it on I went to Catholic school, kindergarten through 8th grade, and it was a very small school, one hallway, all of the classrooms were on it. And I think that I just gotten used to that environment of like the intimacy of knowing everyone and being connected to so many people versus a large corporation where you get lost and things move so slow there. And I very much love fast paced things. Um, and so I think that's part of the reason why the craft beer industry appealed to me. But if I did not go into craft, I just wanted something that was smaller, something where I felt like I could make a difference, and things, and I could have a hand in change and not feel like another cog in the machine.
Exactly. You're a person, you're not a number.
Yes.
So, at what point in your life were you introduced to craft beer?
About 10 years ago, um, I was dating my husband. We had kind of just started our relationship. And I was already a beer drinker, but not a craft beer drinker. And I started to be a little adventurous, and I saw Allagash White on the beer menu wherever we were. And that basically was all she wrote. As soon as I tasted it, I was like, oh, what is this? Like, I need to know more about what this is. Are there other things like it? And we both just kind of fell into craft beer face forward. And I try to make it like my husband's hobby, but it was totally mine. Like, he still drinks with me and all of that, but He could care less about all the other things that I've gotten my hands into, which is totally fine. Um, and yeah, it was that beer, I guess, in a way changed my life,
No,
changed
Allagash
my
White's
trajectory.
definitely a very, very solid beer. I don't think Allagash makes a bad beer. So
No.
that's definitely a great one to first dive into. But looking back 10 years ago, what was the craft beer scene like in Atlanta then?
Oh man. So Georgia, Atlanta has some very restrictive laws when it comes to beer. And at that time, we had the ticket system where you would pay for a tour, and the tour included, say, for example, 6 pours. And you would get a free glass. We actually have a hutch full of glassware, and I really don't need any more, but I keep
Does your
getting it.
husband try to make you get rid of some?
Oh, I will happily get rid of. We've gotten rid of a good bit of it, but it just like for some reason I still have trouble closing the doors. Um, some are very sentimental to me, and so we keep them. But actually, I might need to do another round of editing on that glassware. But yeah, we had the ticket system, and it was it was great for consumers because you could drink all kinds of beer for like $10, but it was stifling to breweries. And so I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we got rid of that. And the scene just boomed because breweries were able to function as like real businesses that can make money. But before we had probably like 2 or 3 breweries here when we started out. And funny enough, like Monday night where I work now is where we would always go. And then when that law passed, it was like breweries all over the place. So many were opening at a time I couldn't keep up with them.
Did you feel like you had a connection to Monday night even when you were just a guest?
Yes. Yeah.
Why?
Like it was the second brewery. I don't know. It was the second brewery we visited. I told you that I love being outside. They have like this big garage door behind the bar where they would open that up on the nice days, which we have a lot of nice days here in Atlanta. And there was just so much light and brightness, and the staff were welcoming, and the beer was good. It was just the kind of atmosphere I wanted to hang out in. The vibe was, as my one of the founders would say, the vibe was it was good, and so I stayed and I kept coming back, and just like I mean, we actually ended up getting married there 5 years ago.
Oh, that's
That's how much
amazing.
I like we fell in love with that place.
And that was before, obviously, you even worked there.
Yeah.
So, at what point in time did you want to take your career to actually working in the industry? Was it intentional, or did
Yes,
it just kind of happen? At it was.
it was intentional. And I think in 2017, I was at a job that I had outgrown, and it was time for me to leave. And I was kind of being hard headed about it. And the universe was like, no, you got to go. And so I quit my job, didn't have any other job lined up. Um, I decided that I would start freelancing. It's been something I've wanted to do for a while. And that's what I started doing. And then I ended up getting a full time job at another place, which didn't really make me happy because it kind of took me away from my freelancing, but it was a good way to still make money and build my freelancing business. But I knew I wanted to work in the craft beer industry full time. And I figured I would do that through freelancing somehow, some way. I had like a shape of a plan. And that's when I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I would work on that dream. And then Monday night had an opening. I want to say sometime in 2019, and I applied for it, didn't get it, but I must have left an impression on them because they reached out to me last year, and now I'm working there. So it didn't turn out the way I thought it would, but the end goal of which is why you have to be specific about your goals. I wanted to work full time in the craft beer industry, and now I am.
So when you quit your job a few years ago to become a freelancer full time,
Mhm.
what was your goal for your writings? Were you writing about beer? What were the topics you were covering?
So I started writing about, so I actually consulted a few different people who were already writing in the field, and they were very, the advice I kept hearing was like, pick a niche. And I was like, okay, well, I do want to write about people. I'd rather write about people than beer, because beer to me isn't that exciting to write about. And it does
Well,
like,
everybody's been writing about beer forever.
yeah, like, I mean, it does touch on my technical writing background, but I don't want to get into the science of beer. I'll leave that for the scientists. We all know that I'm not good at chemistry or physics or any of that stuff. So I'm just going to leave that over there. So I knew I wanted to write about people. And the reason why I targeted, like, I first targeted women in beer, and eventually ended up saying like, oh, I need to write about women in beer and like just the diversity part side of beer, because I read an article that was written by a white guy and I wasn't too happy with it. It wasn't a bad article. It just, I felt like it would have gone to another level. It was written by someone who was black, because the topic was about black diversity in the craft beer industry. And that was when I was like, oh yeah, I should have wrote, like, I like, maybe not me, but me could have been me, but I was like, a black person should have wrote this article. I could have written this article. And that was when I like lasered in on writing for covering diverse stories of diversity in the beer industry.
And you obviously felt welcomed at Monday Night Brewing's tap room. But as a whole, what was the Atlanta beer scene like for a woman and a person of color as you were getting further and further into your love of craft beer?
Um, I
Did you
remember the
feel
first.
welcome at most of the tap rooms in the area, or what was the whole vibe like?
Yeah, so the first brewery I visited, or we visited together, was it was felt like a frat party. Like I walked into a white frat party, and I think that was part of the reason why the vibe, like I was just waiting for people to do keg stands, like it had that kind of vibe. And I think at Monday night, I cannot remember if there, I want to say there was like a person of color behind the bar, and that was like, that always makes me feel like slightly better about a place. Um, I can't remember that like clearly that first visit as far as like people there, but it was, I, or there might have been, I think somehow some way I saw in the chat room someone of color, and that was enough for me. Like that made me feel comfortable. And oh gosh, I forgot part of your question.
I mean, just what was like the experience
Yeah.
like being a woman of color in tap rooms in the early years of tap rooms being an option in the
Yeah.
Atlanta and the Georgia area?
Yeah, they were, I mean, overall, I mean, they're still white. They're still white now. I was at a brewery yesterday, and I remember looking around, and I don't think I really saw a black person as a patron, but our server was black. I mean, it's, the great thing about Atlanta is it's very diverse. Uh, and that's starting to trickle into the tap rooms. But I mean, there's still a ways to go. I think part of my comfortability is that this is my city, Atlanta, born and raised. Like you can't tell me where I can't go, especially within the perimeter of Atlanta. Like I am going to go wherever I want to, and if you don't welcome me, then that's really sad for you. Like I I don't think there are many places within the city. I can't think of an incident. So I feel really safe here. It's when I go outside of Atlanta to other places is when I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. The rest of America doesn't look like Atlanta.
You're back to the frat party.
Yes, yes.
So you mentioned your experiences in Atlanta, and I've heard other people talk about how Atlanta is becoming more welcoming for all in the craft beer space. And it does seem like, not comparing Atlanta to other cities and just going from, a diverse atmosphere to the frat party, but it truly does seem like Atlanta is doing something right. There's powerful voices like yourself there and some others. Why do you believe Atlanta is moving in a better direction than some cities?
Um, hmm. I haven't thought of that. I will say that the reason why Atlanta has a strong Black population is because this is Black Mecca. Black businesses thrive here. Black people thrive here, and um, I think that if breweries don't cater to that group, they're missing out on money. Like if we want to provide some motivation, money. So if you aren't willing to open your tap room or what have a welcoming tap room, you're missing out on money. And why would you do that? You know?
I've talked to Dave Bracy quite a bit over the past year, and one of my favorite things that he says, he goes, "Black people have money too," and I'm like,
Yeah, absolutely. And we are ready to spend it. Yeah.
well,
So you
and
don't want to miss out on that.
to look at that statement though, it should be the goal of all of these breweries and tap rooms to create welcoming spaces anyways. It shouldn't be obviously about the dollar. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just an added perk. We want to, we're proud of the beer we're brewing in our industry. We should want to share it with as many people of as many different backgrounds as possible.
Mhm. Absolutely. I think sometimes though it's not something I think it's just overlooked. Like if you are a white person who opens up a brewery and you just don't really have Black people in your circle, you just don't think about Black people. It's just not something that's top of mind. So you don't create a space where you create your space, but you don't think about, oh, maybe I should, I don't know. It's very hard to say, like, when I walk into a room, how do I feel welcome? I mean, like I said, if I see someone of color, I'm like, oh, okay, that gives me some comfort. But there's a vibe to a place that is hard to put into words where I walk in and I'm like, yes, I like this place. This place is good. It's just a number of different things. And I think that I'm sure someone's able to put it into words. This writer can't. I've been trying to figure that out. Maybe I need to spend some more time at 5 in the morning thinking about that. But I think if someone can uncrack that, then and show people how to do it, I'm sure there are people out there doing that, but yeah, I think you just have to seek that out. You have to seek it out, and I hope that now that after everything happened last year, that we're in a better place where if we weren't top of mind, now you're prioritizing people in the BIPOC community and making sure that they feel welcomed.
No, absolutely. And look at some of the things that have happened the past year. I mean, there's been so many terrible things that have happened the past year, but let's look at some of the positive right now. Like Marcus Basketball's Weathered Souls, Black is
Mhm.
Beautiful. I think it's like 1,300 breweries took part in that effort, which is
Yeah.
amazing. One thing I love about all these collaboration beers that have taken place over the past few years is just the awareness they can generate. Just brewing
Mhm.
this beer, having your guests see it, talked about in the press, just getting the word out to all these people about whatever mission we're talking about. It's so important. And it's beautiful that craft beer can use beer as the liquid to share stories and share
Yeah.
important things about the world. But one thing that I always come back to when we're talking about initiatives like that and all the others that have taken place over the past while, they're generating awareness. But one of the most important things to me isn't just awareness, but it's about the next steps.
Yeah.
In your mind, for an effort like Black is Beautiful, donations were being made to organizations, the awareness was generated. Looking further along the map of what steps people should be taking, what approaches would you like breweries to be doing right now to further their involvement in just creating safer spaces?
Um, Creating safer spaces.
I mean, whether they're just reaching out to people in their community, inviting them to their tap room, doing more diverse events,
Yeah, I
perhaps just training of some sorts.
yeah, I would say there are a few. Let's see, I don't know how many things are on this list, but I would love to see beer sales reps go into neighborhoods that are majority Black I deserve to live in my neighborhood and drink craft beer and be able to go to my local store to get it. I should not have to go to a white neighborhood to get the beer that I want to drink. So that, like, something simple as that, because you you're putting the beer closer to the populations that you've been ignoring. Um, we deserve to have those things in our stores, in our neighborhoods. Um, Also, making sure that if you are able to hire externally, that you are putting those jobs in places for people to see them. And I know Beer Culture has a job board where you can add your job there and have it in front of a diverse amount of candidates. But also, like, you don't have to only target craft beer people. My job is social media. You can, like, that's not something that you have, like, I am a craft beer nerd and I'm a Monday night lover, so it works, but I didn't have to be either one of those things to do the job. So I think that just taking a further step to make sure you're bringing in diverse candidates. Um, and then I had something else on my list, but now I can't remember. I would say those two things: bringing the beer to the people and bringing in more diverse candidates, whether that's looking in the craft beer community or outside of it. And I think it probably needs to be outside of it, because I don't, white, black, or whatever, I don't think a lot of people understand the different jobs you can have within the craft beer industry. Everyone thinks everyone's a brewer, but that's like, the brewer can brew the beer, but someone needs to sell it. Someone needs to let people know on social media that it's available. And then you have everything else around that. Like, there's so many positions within that industry that people could be applying to.
No, I agree. And something that frustrates me a little bit with social media and just the whole generating awareness in general is a lot of times, let's say online, you post something about diversity in craft beer.
Mhm.
You might get a lot of likes, but a lot of time, those people who are liking or acknowledging or commenting on that post are the people who are already making an effort to be better. I
Yeah.
think a challenge I face, and I'm always looking for solutions of how we can get beyond the initial people who are already trying to make craft beer better. How do you reach the folks who might not think we have a problem or just need a little more education? What are some routes you believe that can be successful for people? I don't want to call them on the fence, but they might not just be in a place where they see the problem firsthand, but they can still make a difference.
Hmm. I don't know. It's 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 hard. I don't know. It's hard to. I find it hard to have conversations with people who I have to argue with about my life mattering, and my and the way this country has been structured to not support Black people. Um, and I just, for me, it's just difficult to even try to have those conversations. I'm thinking about, like, when we did our Black is Beautiful initiative, we had some nasty comments on our posts. And so these people are seeing this information and they're responding with negativity. And I don't know how to approach those people. How do I have a conversation with them? And I really don't think it should be me having this conversation. It should be someone who looks like them, because I think immediately when they see me, they're going to shut down. I think that a lot of these conversations should be happening at home. And by home, I mean the people who are your family members, the people who um, are your friends. They make these comments. Like I always say, and I'm not the one who came up with this. I can't, like, Black people can't solve racism. We can't fix that. That's something that needs to be fixed, I think, by white people. And I think that th- I'm gonna jump over to another thought. Um, the great thing about the craft beer industry is that these issues that we have within the country are underneath a microscope. And if we can start fixing things within our industry, I'm hoping that bleeds out into the rest of the country. I don't know if that's possible, but I think that what's great is that we're having a lot of these conversations, and I'm hoping that it softens people and gets people to understand that there are issues with this country, and it might not necessarily be caused by anyone who's here, but we all contribute to it in some way. And yeah, um, I think it's just trying to have conversations with if your friend or your family member approaches you in a loving way and you're on the fence or whatever. Um, I think that's how we do it. So if you own a brewery, if you work at a brewery, and you know that your friend makes comments that are racist, talk to them. Have that conversation. I don't think it needs to be anything that's structured within the craft beer community. Maybe it could be, maybe it should be. But I think if you start calling out people and explaining to them things, and maybe that will, I don't know. I am not an activist, so I have don't have a lot of these answers, but I know people
You
like,
are a very powerful, positive voice, though, and I
yeah,
think that's very, very important. And these uncomfortable conversations that we might have to have, well, we do have to have,
mhm,
they're extremely critical to move in a better direction. And I simply think by generating more awareness, having these conversations, we truly can make a difference. And what better place to have these conversations than over a beer? I know they
absolutely.
say beer and politics don't mix sometimes, but you know,
But
it's not all politics. It's about being a better
mm,
person.
right, absolutely, because like it's caring about someone has nothing to do with politics. Treating someone fairly has nothing to do with politics. I know people like try to say that, but it's just human rights, and that should not be political.
So let's pivot a little bit to talk about the platforms you use to put messages out there.
Mhm.
Obviously, with Monday Night, you're a social media coordinator. I would imagine that most of the time you're taking on the Monday Night voice to share everything Monday Night related. So,
Yes.
what's it like being the voice of a brand for a brewery?
Oh man, I can't believe I'm do this job. I can't believe I'm doing this job. Like I used to read their post, and now I get to do that, and it's great because I get to connect with our fans. But it's also kind of scary because I have a very public job. I mean, people might not know who I am behind the words, but it's a very public job. So like everyone in the company sees my work, and everyone out there in the universe sees my work. And while it's, I guess, one thing to do it for myself, I don't really, I guess, think about that. But when doing it for them feels like it's just like an extra layer of like pressure. The pressure's on. It's it's great though. But yeah, it's a very public job to have. So if you stumble publicly, and it kind of sucks sometimes when you do. But one great thing about the culture at our company is that they embrace mistakes, and so even if I've made a mistake, it's not as if, like, I've been in positions where people will make you feel like you should just go crawl in a hole and give up on life. And it's not like that at all. Like, we talk about it, we find a way to avoid it in the future, and we move on. So I'm very grateful for that because, like I said, if I were to stumble publicly and excuse me, publicly, and there were like massive repercussions on the other end, like I would have so much stress doing my job.
Well, it's interesting you put it that way because at Monday Night, your name is not necessarily out there, although you're the voice of the brand. But you also have essentially your own brand. Your Instagram has over 5,000 followers. She loves craft, and your face, your name is out there.
Yeah.
How do you take that approach? I mean, you said when Monday Night, you don't say you don't fail publicly, or if you make a mistake, it comes across under the Monday Night heading. But when you're putting it under you, you're taking all responsibility for all content that comes out. How does running your own Instagram differ from the Monday night?
With Monday night, I because I love that company so much and have so much respect for them, I would never want to do anything to make them look bad. But if I made myself look bad, like I don't care. That's just me. Like I'm human. I think that people look at well, I have been very fortunate to, like I said, not have negativity in my corner of the internet. Um, but I think that people are harder on brands, on companies, than they are on a single person. At least that's been my experience. I know that people can be just as hard on a person, but I think the fact that people have gotten to know me, they know that I'm a chill person. I try to be nice as possible to people. Um, and I don't know, I feel like there is less room for mistakes when it comes to a company of that size versus me and my corner of the internet. Like I don't know, it's just feels very different, and don't I don't take my Instagram very seriously. I'm just there sharing my life, my beers, my food, and if you don't like it, then that's fine. Like you don't have to follow along. I don't know why you wouldn't, because my food, it looks bomb. And
I mean, you're talking about all the things I love in life. I mean, good
right.
times, good beer, good food. I mean, that's
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. So it's easier. It's easier to me to do that because I don't take it seriously. I'm not getting paid for it versus I don't want to ever do anything to make Monday night look bad and of that, I don't know, that sort. I always want to
No,
put
I
my
love
best
the
foot forward.
positive approach you take to. Oh, it sounds like everything in your life. You just look at things from a nice angle. You just want to make people feel good about themselves and just share the little things in life that can shine a little positivity into someone else's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you stay super busy. I mean, you like you said, you get up super early in the morning, you go to work at Monday night, you're doing all your own personal projects, whether you're writing, your Instagram. You've written a lot of really great pieces for Good Beer Hunting recently. But one thing I do want to talk about that I absolutely love is your newsletter, The Share. Can
Yeah.
you tell everybody a little bit about what that is and how it started?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is one of those pandemic projects. I started it it's been a year now. I think a few weeks ago, I celebrated my 1 year. Um, I started it because I missed having conversations with my girlfriends over beer. And so, one thing, there's a bottle shop in my neighborhood. I would meet there with my friends and we would talk about everything from like beer to Beyonce. And it was fun. Like we would talk about whatever was going on in the news and all of that. And so the share was kind of birthed out of that desire to talk to someone about what was going on in the world. But then also, I just wanted a space to celebrate Black women. And like, I think we're dope as fuck, and excuse my French. And I just wanted to show my appreciation for the women who I knew and other women who I've gotten to know through interviewing them, and that kind of all of that energy kind of went into the share. And I have honestly, like, for a long time since I was a teenager, wanted to do something like this. um I used to be a huge, like, magazine person. I would subscribe to all of the magazines that were for women of my, or at that time I was like a teenager, so not exactly, but I was YM 17, all of those things I used to subscribe to. But reading them made me feel so alienated because I knew that they were not thinking about Black women. And I was like, I'm going to start a magazine for young Black women. Like that, I knew I wanted to do that when I was younger. Um, and I feel like I've kind of achieved that dream in a way through the share. It's not what I envisioned when I was 13, 14, but it allows me to talk about beer using a voice that probably would not be used anywhere else. And to combine, I used to do beer pairings in the beginning where I would do a beer pairing with something that fit with our culture. And I just really wanted a space that felt like us and it felt welcoming, felt like we were celebrated, we were supposed to be there, and that is how the share was birthed.
I absolutely love it. I love on your website how people can nominate others who are other, amazing Black women in craft beer, just to give them that time in the spotlight to show off that they're doing absolutely wonderful things.
Yes.
So looking at that nomination feature that you have, who's doing great things right now? Who are you impressed by? Who's making a difference?
Um, I have so many women I admire. First, I gotta give props to my friend Jen Price. She just hosted her first beer conference. I think it was 2 weeks ago. She planned it in like 6 weeks,
So
and
her and I talked when she was first starting planning it. I'm
yeah,
like, I just finished a conference that I ran. I'm like, Jen, I'm super impressed with what you're doing, but you're going to be working hard those next few weeks. And she did it. I was actually watching
yes,
some of the content earlier. Killer job.
yes, it's amazing what she was able to do, and I just like have so much admiration for her. Outside of that, um, also love Ren Navarro. She's freaking awesome. I've got to interview her for the share, and she is just. I had such a ball talking to her.
Her laugh is infectious.
Yes, yes. We had a awesome time. Eugenia Brown, that's my Capricorn sister. She is freaking awesome. We have the greatest conversations. Let's see who else. I know I'm gonna miss someone. Um,
But everyone you've mentioned so far is
mhm,
doing amazing things to simply start the conversation in craft beer to keep it
yes,
more welcoming, better for everyone. And I love what those women are doing because it's making a difference. It's getting attention, it's
yes,
getting people involved, it's getting action to actually happen.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, looking at what you've done so far, because you're putting out tons of great content, whether on your Instagram, whether through your newsletter, whether through your writings, what's next for Stephanie Grant?
Ooh, um, I
Looking at
have.
that to-do list or my old index card, what do you have up there that's not checked off yet?
Yeah, I am working on a project right now, which is why anyone who is subscribed to the share, you have not gotten an issue in a bit because I am working on. I'm not ready to. I'm not ready to tell all the details yet, but I pitched an idea to Good Bear Hunting, and they were all for it. This project is going to be huge. It's going to be big. Um, it's going to be talking about beer, and it's going to be talking about Black people and beer in a way that I have not done before. And I can't wait to talk about it like fully. I want to wait and do like a huge surprise. This is what's going on. But it requires a lot of research, which is why I have been busy spending my 5 o'clock mornings doing research. Actually, I need to go to the library and do research. That's how like intense this project is. Um, but that has been taking up most of my time, and I'm super excited about it. It's one of those projects that like gnawed on me until I told someone else about it.
No,
Um,
you have to do it.
I have to do it, no matter how daunting it feels and how big it feels. But yeah, so like stay tuned. I'm not sure where I'm going to announce it first. It might be in the share. It might be on social. I don't know yet. I got a lot of work to do before I'm ready to share it with the public, but that has been taking up all of my other free time.
I can't wait to find out what it is. And thank you for giving me that teaser. That just makes me
Yes.
want to learn more. And I'll be following all of those outlets. But thank you so much for this conversation today. One of my
Yeah.
favorite things about meeting people in craft beer is hearing their stories and just talking to positive people who want to make a difference. And you're doing such great things in all fronts. I just can't wait to keep following your success. And more importantly, I want to come to one of those bottle shares you're doing. So hopefully we get to share a
Oh,
beer at
yeah.
some point over the next little bit.
I would love that. Thank you,
And
Andrew.
Atlanta's not too far from Virginia, so let me know if you're ever up this way.
I will, definitely.
Cool. Well, Stephanie, cheers. Thanks again for today, and I'll let you get to the library before they close.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.